epic, mind-blowing, absolute audio hell. A few days ago was the 40th anniversary, that's 40, of one of the most epic and goosebump-inducing records ever made. You might have already guessed it, it's Ride the Lightning by Metallica. I have to say that title with my chest, I have to give it all the aura. Ride the Lightning. I don't know about you guys, but for me, forget about Master of Puppets, forget about the Justice album, the Black album. This album is something else. This was probably my very first metal experience. I was just a little child, probably 7. My brother might be watching this video right now. He actually was the one to introduce me to Metallica. He used to blast the music when I was just a first or second grader, and I used to just stand there and absorb all of that. So imagine how I felt the first time I heard For Whom the Bell Tolls or Creeping Death. I was taken somewhere else by it, because the music was completely different than everything else that was popular back then. But what exactly made it stand out for me? Well, first I'd say it was the sound, second, the aura of the band, and third, the artwork. Oof. Just look at this. Nobody's ever done anything like this. So, since the child in me has been awakened, today I'm here to fully review Metallica's Blue album and give credit where credit is due, as well as criticism. The record straight up starts with acoustic guitars, which hadn't been used by Metallica ever. Already the band is showing a new level of diversity, not only when it comes to instrument use, but also genre versatility. The intro to Fight Fire with Fire takes great inspiration from a 17th century minuet in G that apparently belongs to an anonymous author. Also, who came up with this intro? You sure already know it was Cliff Burton, rest in peace. So they're also showing good teamwork and some ego control, although later on you'll see the opposite of the latter. So all good so far. The whole band joins in like a nuclear attack, as many have described it, and they're firing on all cylinders. Sound is thunderous. However, there is an annoying issue, a bass drum mixing issue. It's basically inaudible, making the beat and rhythm hard to follow. A very good and straightforward chorus. The solo, in my opinion, is one of Kirk's best, and the harmony is the real highlight of the song. It's one of the sickest and most mesmerizing guitar wizardries I've ever heard. Exactly what they were thinking when they came up with it, I'll never know. The song builds up and explodes once again. The outro is brutal. Absolutely solid opener. They basically gave us a pretty good preview of what this album is about. Absolute hell. Next up is the title track. The first time I listened to this one was actually in my teen years, and I'm not sure why, but I still remember how that intro harmony made me feel. It's so menacing, and it's really all the instruments coming into play. The guitars, the bass, and the toms. The main riff comes in, and this is where I have to acknowledge that the title to this record is actually very fitting, because the sound is thunderous and electrifying, like The Rock. Now we have a simpler, slower, and catchier formula. Also, kudos to James for absolutely killing it on the vocals. The rhythm is very smooth for a Metallica song from their early years, and enjoyable. Now the interlude. I love how the riffs so far are successfully conveying the feelings of the protagonist, in a way. Because what's the theme here? It's about someone going through the final moments of their life in a very doomy and ominous way. It's that sense of impending doom. I love how the part right before the solo is giving the calming before the storm, and then the solo is the disaster striking. Nobody can deny that this solo is one of Kirk's top 3 or 5. Absolutely breathtaking and mesmerizing. After that, it's post-mortem, but it also feels like the disaster won't end. The protagonist cannot get out of this extreme trauma. The outro feels like the end of the world. It's like this whole song is one big tragic play or story that ends in a very tragic manner. Amazing song, very well written. Only negative remark I have here is the fact that the muddiness of this record made a couple of riffs indiscernible. Next up, For Whom the Bell Tolls, another level of epicness. What an eerie way to start a song. I mean, church bells. Disregard the fact that they are not actually church bells. And the bass solo. That is one of the most menacing, ominous, and tone-setting things I've heard in my life. We already had a hellish sound thanks to the guitars and drums. Now add to that the bass. Top notch. The simple, slow, and marchy beat is just what this song needs. Nothing less, nothing more. The chromatic riff is one of the most solid riffs ever written. It's untouchable. Also, the little guitar solo is another thing, adding to the whole martial tone of the song. I don't need to add anything at this point. This whole song is just solid, straightforward, simple but effective, and untouchable. Truly epic. Now, a break from all the heaviness. Time for some tragedy, more tragedy, next level tragedy, with Fade to Black. Back to acoustic guitars, more versatility. The song opens with a riff that would later become one of the band's most iconic, an introduction to sad Metallica. And then there's the solo, a solo like no other. It's like Kirk was thinking, today I'm gonna make myself famous when he came up with it. Again, that little issue, the production issue. At the end of the solo, the acoustic guitars are indiscernible, but at least we got another iconic acoustic riff afterwards. Kudos to James once again for having the courage to show his vulnerable side in the lyrics as the frontman of an early 80s metal band. Who did that back then? Nobody. I cannot stress enough how every riff so far is strong and interesting, and the song is really well structured. The interlude, another great and iconic Metallica moment. The riffs, the vocals, the harmonies, and then the final solo. It's really hard to describe this. A lot of it is reminding me of Pink Floyd. The melodies, the choice of notes, the progression of moods and keys. This song is just impeccable. We're picking up the pace again with track number 5, Trapped Under Ice. Once again, it's that mixing issue. I've always struggled to keep up with the rhythm of this one because that kick is hard to catch. Also, I cannot deny Lars's playing is another factor here. The riff here is not your typical Metallica riff. It's less than straightforward, a little syncopated and fun to play. Then there's another hot solo by Kirk Hammett, and another one in between the verses. The bridge riff partially sounds like it has a glam metal influence. It kind of reminds me of bands like Loverboy and Autograph. Overall, the song is brief, pretty good, but it's got one or two stock riffs. But still, the mood is perfectly conveyed. Next up is James Hetfield's least favorite song, still no idea why to this day, but a frequently fan requested one. Here Comes Escape. The intro riff is gorgeous and displays the band's British influence. The second one displays a Judas Priest influence, which is cool too. The band is playing slower and simpler while retaining their thunderous sound and loud, high-pitched vocals. What's also interesting is James going low in the chorus and the bridge. Another delightful solo with a very nice choice of notes. The mixing and production are also doing a lot and making it sound awesome. However, the outro is a bit blunt, and I think the song ends prematurely. I wish more thought and work were put into it. Next is what, for a long period of time, was my favorite Metallica song, Creeping Death. I've played every riff until I couldn't anymore. Wow, I feel old. Every riff is serving the mood in a way. The band is tastefully playing in E minor, E Phrygian, and E harmonic minor. There's nothing I can say about the solo that I haven't already said about the previous ones. Just perfect. Amazing melodies and build-up. Then there's the interludes. I'm sure they were thinking about the crowd participation that would happen live when they were working on this part. This is really mature musical thinking for a band that was only on its second record. The outro is so well done and kind of emotional. The climax is impeccable and satisfying to the ears. It's like the end of a long epic story. Top notch. Last but most certainly not least, the final storm, the final scene, the ultimate act of epicness, the Call of Cthulhu. Just when you thought this album couldn't get any more epic, Metallica, in partnership with Mr. Dave Mustaine, gives you a pack of majestic riffs, one after the other. This track feels like the soundtrack to a scene of some massive natural catastrophe or a huge thunderstorm in the middle of the ocean. Again, I highly admired the band and of course the production team's ability to capture the atmosphere with audio, just audio. Overall, the track feels like a symphony. There's build-up, there are chapters. Of course, the solos are mesmerizing. The bass is doing a lot of extra touches here and there, contributing to the whole Cthulhu theme. The Call of Cthulhu is a lot like a blend of epic mythology, tragedy, horror, apocalypse, and post-apocalypse. I'm all out of words for this one. Truly breathtaking. That's all I have to say about this fantastic music. To wrap up, I'll say the album is damn near perfect. The music is thunderous, the sound is so well produced, and the songs are well constructed. The band successfully captured themes like the apocalypse, war, nuclear death, despair, fear, loss of hope, and even natural disasters. All of that with sound, just sound. Again, a lot of credit goes to the production team. Everything is top notch. There's a very good amount of versatility. I think the band pushed the limits and introduced new and more open-minded possibilities for what a metal record could sound like. A lot of technicality is displayed as well, especially on part of Kirk Hammett. A lot of credit goes to Cliff Burton too, for adding many effects and touches and experimenting with bass effects. He had a big role in constructing the whole sound. James showed guts with his more powerful and versatile vocals, especially on Fade to Black. The drumming was definitely more interesting than the one on Kill 'Em All. The sound was also improved. However, there's that mixing issue I talked about. The kick is buried. No wonder it's loud as hell on the last two records. And we cannot deny the record is a bit muddy. Nonetheless, great album, absolutely a gem in music history. I could go on and talk more and more about it, but that's all I'm gonna say for today. Thank you very much for watching. Now it's your turn to share your thoughts in the comments. Also, what is your favorite song from the album? Feel free to add any thoughts or share your opinions. Thanks again, please take care of yourselves. I'll see you next time, and as always, have fun.